Samsung Galaxy S24 or iPhone 16. Samsung recently released One UI 7, and after a year of release of Galaxy S24, it is a good time to compare it to iPhone 16. I am Mo, and Happy New Year. Let's start by the most important change, which is the new Samsung user interface. One UI 7 couldn't look more similar to iOS after the recent changes. The animations are very similar between iOS 18 and One UI 7. However, since the Galaxy S24 has a 120Hz refresh rate compared to the iPhone base model's 60Hz, it definitely feels much smoother. Samsung added new widgets, which also look very similar to iOS. The opening animation of widgets, like the health widget, is now also similar, and there isn't much of a difference. The written apps layout has also changed. Instead of apps appearing next to each other, they are now stacking on top of each other on both phones. There is still a close all button on the Galaxy, and the icons of the most used apps are shown at the bottom of the recent apps screen. The notification center has changed on the Galaxy with the new update and is now more similar to iOS. On both phones, if you swipe from the left side, you will access the notification center. At least on Samsung phones, you can still access the notification center by swiping down from anywhere, whereas on the iPhone, you can only access it by pulling down from the very top of the screen. If you swipe from the right side on the screen, you will access quick settings. While they still look different, the differences aren't as stark as before, especially with the roundness of the icons and the overall look and feel. If you play music from Spotify, YouTube Music, or probably other players, the new One UI 7 lock screen features a semi-dynamic island at the bottom of the page. On the iPhone, there is of course the dynamic island at the top if you minimize the music app. For both phones, if you go back to the lock screen while playing music, you will see a very similar design that lets you interact with your music. You can also minimize that view by clicking on the music icon. However, the animations looks different this time. On the iPhone, the album picture appears from the middle of the screen, while on the Galaxy, it appears from the bottom and moves to the middle. The camera app is now more similar than ever. The Galaxy now hides most of the settings. Also, the modes like photo and video are now located at the bottom of the page, as opposed to the middle like on the iPhone. Additionally, the modes are smaller. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of this change. It makes it harder to access and also messes my muscle memory a bit. There are some welcome changes to the Samsung Galaxy camera app though. For example, there's a new aim feature in the middle of the screen that helps you adjust and align your camera to take better shots. Most of the settings are hidden, except for the 12 to 50 megapixel switch, which remains accessible in the main camera interface. The rest of the settings are neatly packed into the setting menu in the corner of the screen, which you can access if needed. In general, I do feel that Samsung introduced fat finger problem, which means users with a fatter finger have a harder time to navigate and click on things, and the chance of misclick will be higher. On the other hand, the UI is less cluttered, and it depends on your taste, which one do you prefer. The iPhone 16 also has a camera button. I've mentioned this in multiple reviews, and I'll say it again. For me, it is useless, simply because when you click on the bottom, the phone shakes, and that's not good. The iPhone 16 base model has two cameras on the back, an improved ultra-wide camera that can also be used to shoot macro shots due to a smaller minimum focal distance, and a main lens. The main lens sensor on the Galaxy S24 is similar in size to the one on the iPhone 16. On the other hand, it has a weaker ultra-wide camera. However, it compensates for this with a 3x telephoto lens, which the iPhone 16 lacks. Let's also take a look at pictures and how the Galaxy S24 compares to the iPhone 16 after all of these updates. I'm using the Galaxy S24 Exynos right now. It is a bit of a foggy day, so the picture didn't turn out great. For the first photo of Daria, taken with the main lens, the iPhone lifted the shadows more, while the Galaxy's photo is more balanced. In the second indoor shot with the ultra-wide lens, it is the reverse. This time, the Galaxy lifted the shadows more, while the iPhone's photo is more detailed and better looking. In this shot, with the main lens and portrait mode, the iPhone again created more contrast, while the Galaxy lifted the shadows too much and made the picture overly bright. The maximum zoom level for the iPhone 16 is 10 times, while the Galaxy S24 can go up to 30 times, which can be handy in certain situations. Also, the quality of the zoom on the Galaxy S24 is naturally better, simply because the phone has a telephoto lens, whereas the iPhone lacks this option. While Samsung offers more camera features in the default camera app, one feature that Apple does better is the undertones. Some of these undertones give really nice looks that are much better than the filters on the Galaxy. I wish Samsung had added this feature with One UI 7. For example, here I use the dramatic effect on the iPhone, which creates a very nice looking picture. It fits perfectly with the strong shadows in the scene and the urban winter style of the photos. Both phones support portrait video mode, which blurs the background to make the subject stand out and shine in the scene. Here, I find the Galaxy S24's video more appealing compared to the iPhone 16. For the main lens in normal mode, I don't find a crazy big difference between the two. They look rather similar to me. The video on the Galaxy looks a bit brighter, with more lifted shadows compared to the iPhone, but the dynamic range is similar. As I mentioned, the zoom on the Galaxy S24 is simply better. Here, I took a photo of this gentleman with 10x zoom, and the one on the Galaxy is miles better than the iPhone. On the other hand, the iPhone does better macro shots if you are into that. Additionally, the Galaxy brightens the scene more at night and captures with lower shutter speed, which increases the exposure of the scene. One big problem that I had with the Galaxy S24 in the beginning was the mic, but it seems they solved the issue. On the left side we have the Galaxy S24 and on the right side we have iPhone 16. It does feel like iPhone is a bit brighter. In general, I do feel like it does lift the shadows. There's a train passing by, so it's also a good test for the microphone. Let me know in the comments which one has a better sound. When it comes to performance, the Galaxy S24 has two variants. One with Exynos 2400 and the other one with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Here I'm using the Exynos 2400 to compare it to Apple A18 Pro and iPhone 16. For the first test, I ran GeekBench to compare the chipset of the phones, especially their CPUs. The single-core performance of the A18 is very impressive. The multi-core performance is also better on the iPhone, scoring around 8400 compared to 6300 for the Galaxy S24 Exynos. With the Galaxy S24 coming with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, this gap will likely be closed in February. For the second test, I compared the phones while playing Genshin Impact on medium settings and 60 frames per second. Both phones have a small form factor, so I wouldn't expect them to run the game smoothly for a long period of time. After around 12 minutes, I noticed the Galaxy S24 running more laggy compared to the iPhone 16, which is to be expected since Apple is using the latest chipset technology while Samsung is a generation behind. It would be more fair to wait for the new Galaxy to come out. That said, both did very well, and what surprised me was that after 15 minutes, the iPhone still didn't thermal throttle. The body temperature of the Galaxy S24 was 2 to 3 degrees hotter at the end of the game compared to the iPhone 16. In general, the iPhone 16 series has an excellent thermal management. One thing that Galaxy does offer though is DeX. You can connect your phone to a monitor or headset and turn it into a PC. I recently got into DeX and I will publish a video about it soon. And for the battery life, because I know you will ask, everything I've done in this video, including taking pictures and gaming, was done at the same brightness level, and both phones were connected to the same 5G network. By the end of all of these tests, the Galaxy had 62% of its battery left, while the iPhone had 75%. That said, it is important to say that the Galaxy is running One UI 7 beta, which means it is not a stable version, and I should do another test when the stable version is out to do a better comparison. Also, if you want to see a more detailed comparison, you can watch the Galaxy S24 versus iPhone 16 versus Pixel 9 versus Xiaomi 15 next. Thanks for tuning in to TechMo, and I will see you in the next one, and have a great 2025.